Well, it is 8:15, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and start with rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Oh, yeah.
I've forgotten everything.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda. Approval of minutes of the meeting of June 9th and the claims for today, June 23rd.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. See, I thought it was.
All approved, and we'll move to public comment when anyone may address the commission. Do we have members of the public? We'll start with Zoom. If anyone's present, you can use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen and you'll be called upon. I don't see anyone. How about in the room?
Not me.
Okay, well, seeing none, well, we'll move on and close public comment for now and move to our general manager report.
All right. Good morning, commissioners, staff. Excuse me. The only, excuse me. The only real thing I have,
Any water or something?
no, I'm good. The one thing I want to discuss with the commissioners this morning is the memo that I sent you last week.
Mhm.
On new large load policy changes. Or options for the commissioners to consider. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that memo. I placed a copy of it at your tabletop there for you to take a look at if you haven't had a chance to look at it. But this needs some discussion from the commissioners and a determination about what those policy options are that the commissioner wants. And from that, myself and staff can take that and turn it into a resolution for the commissioners to consider adopting. So.
Well, thank you, Tony. Yeah, I appreciate it. I've reviewed, I assume,
Yeah.
others have. I think that the 4 points of policy that you laid out are in line with what what I was going for. Interested to hear thoughts of others.
Sure, and is this the place in the agenda where we want to discuss this, or?
It's post, yeah, because it isn't actually an agenda item,
Okay,
right?
great. Okay, so, I attended yesterday a meeting put on by the UTC, Washington State Utilities Commission. Did anybody else from staff attend that? And I don't know if those are recorded. I didn't hear if it was recorded or not. The event was long, 4 hours, 12:30 to 4:30, so I was not the most diligent listener, I admit it. I'm sure we've all done that. But I did listen at some really key times, and one of those times is that on August 12th, the Washington State Utilities Commission is doing a forum specifically focused on large loads. Yesterday's forum was the third in a series of forums that the commission has done on resource availability. Come on in, Todd. And why I'm mentioning that is that it might be beneficial to incorporate learning from that forum in our policy development, because I was very impressed with the list of speakers in yesterday's forum that the UCC put together. And so what I'm suggesting for us as a commission is that maybe to request that staff write up a policy. I really like what you said that Chelan did. And the reason I liked it is like, it's frequently in questions. You're curious about, it may be a good first step for us to develop some kind of Q&A first. before laying down formal policy. That's another step of formality that might come next, maybe after the August 12th forum that the UTC is doing.
Q&A with who?
If there was a PDF that was attached to the email that,
Oh, you mean like for our policy, like to put up in our.
yeah, there was the general manager sent out an email with two attachments. One was a PDF and the other one was a Word document. The Word document was was what we have printed here.
Right.
The PDF was Chelan's frequently asked questions on this subject.
Right.
And I kind of like that as maybe a first step to adopt something like a fact, and then, I just feel so much input coming in right now from the world on this issue, and and we have nothing on this subject on our website or in our communication strategy. So I thought that maybe a gentle first step would be this frequently asked questions type of document, and then the second step would be real policy after continuing to collect information. That's what I'm thinking on this subject, but it's just my thoughts.
Well, I think we could, yeah, I mean, after settling on a policy, I mean, we could, it'd be like later stage, discuss how we wanna present that. I mean, I think the FAQ, Chelan County is obviously in a very different boat because they've, had a number of large single loads and data centers for many years and have many more waiting in the queue for approval. And, are just a much larger electric utility, and all of that. So, I mean, I think not all of it's necessarily applicable in the same way. And there's a lot more in their policies beyond what they, simply have on the website. Some of which I think, had been presented to us at WPUDA before, around rate structure and such. None of which quite applies to us in the same way. So I think, but yeah, I think to follow the lead and put forward something similar, set simple policies. The expectations are clear for new customers. No one can say that we sprung anything on them when we told them what it was going to take to be served, and put it out there for the public to know too, because I'm sure people would like to and they're interested. And I think before I'd been overcomplicating it, and I was thinking about what this would take. And Tony here's laid it out very simply.
Yeah, I like that. I do like this. And I guess whether it's FAQ or whatever, I just want to leave room for future refinement of our policy. Write it in such a way now that as I'm expecting, we're gonna get more that's gonna happen in the world around this subject in the next few months. It's very ripe. And a lot of people are preparing policy papers. And there's a intensity of activity this summer, and I just feel like it would benefit from watching that and leave room for refinement, like not over specify things right now. And leave room for refining it over the next year. Well, it's not really even the FAQ that I'm suggesting. I'm just suggesting that we have a way of developing some language now and then refining that language as time goes on.
Well, the policy can be updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I know, but
not,
if you
it's
know
not
that-
set in stone, yeah.
Right, but if you know that's
Yeah.
where you're going,
Uh-huh.
what you write today will be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some questions about lots of stuff. I have lots of questions. So this 1 through 4, so like 1 and 4, to my eyes, look like they contradict each other. Were these intended to be like a list for drafting? Because this says you must bring your own power, and number 4 says you can be served by tier 3 BPA power delivered through the PUD. So is that not at odds with each other? You have to bring your own power, but you can also be served by the PUD. Am I reading that wrong?
There may be circumstances in which they cannot be served.
Okay.
Right, so they would have to bring their own power, right? Or there may be circumstances where they could be served, but they would choose to have their own power because for one reason or another, the circumstances are better for the customer to do so.
Okay, but the number one says large new loads must bring their own power, but we're like, we don't mean that. What I'm asking is 1 through 4, are they meant to be working together? Is it an and or thing? Is it a, yes, thank you.
So, number 1 is actually a subset of number 4.
Gotcha, okay, that
So
makes more
those
sense.
were meant to be
Okay.
essentially mutually exclusive. The idea was to give you 4 different but very related models,
Uh-huh,
so that you could choose one, and then staff can generate, interconnection information, FAQs, rate schedules, all that stuff that staff does.
okay, so this represents different models.
Yes.
They're not, it's this and this and this, because that doesn't make sense. Okay.
But
Yeah.
the intent was, they're not mutually exclusive, they're related.
Mhm.
And it was based on, partially what Tony's heard recently, and then what I've heard from you guys over the last year and a half.
Uh-huh,
That's where that list came from. We're trying to reflect back what you have said.
So we could adopt a combination of these things, right? But they're each is a standalone policy, right? Yeah, because I was.
right.
Raise
they
a
don't
point,
make sense.
they do seem like, if this was our policy, it would be confusing to have.
It would be very confusing.
bring-
I'd like to explore this some, maybe this might help clear up. I share some of the confusion, between the 1 and 4. The nature of tier 3 power. As it's, when BPA delivers tier 3 power. It's not committed in the same way that tier 1 is. Tier 1 is Hooker Crook, we're gonna get you that.
Mhm.
Tier 3 is, based on availability. And if it's if you're thinking about based on availability, that could be on news sources on the other side of the mountains, or news sources somewhere else farther away. And then, with transmission getting that power into the region. And when tell me if I'm wrong, folks. Not that I very well could be wrong. When tier 3 power is delivered, it's kind of fully accounted. It's not like, so what is the purpose of bring your own power? The purpose of bring your own power is don't make it somebody else's problem. Locally, as a PUD, we don't want to make a new customer put a burden on the rest of our customers. And I guess then the open question is the structure of delivery of tier 3 power inherently unburdensome to other customers? And if it is that way, then tier 3 would be an acceptable way to supply a new large load locally. So could someone answer that
Yeah,
question?
and that's how the
Now or
business rules
later?
are presented. So if you look at point number 2,
Mhm.
any new large loads, should not negatively impact existing customers, right? So if you're taking tier 3 power, that shouldn't come as an expense or adversely affect existing customers, right? So if you layer these different business rules together, that creates kind of the context of how we would approach large new loads, right? So they work together, right? You don't use one versus the other, right? These are layered together. Large new loads may only be served by individually negotiated contracts with each customer, right? So that's pretty straightforward, and that would be layered in with these other requirements. So if you're gonna come into our system, or if you want to seek our utility, it can't come at an expense to an existing customer, right? And if it was going to, well, then we can't supply you the tier 3 power, and you'd have to bring your own power. That logic makes sense?
It does. I still have a problem with point number 1.
Okay.
I actually like points number 2, 3, and 4 together. But I don't like point number 1, because that must bring their own power just seems like it must is the word I'm hung up with.
Well, maybe we should amend that with must bring your own power if if points 2, 3, and 4 cannot be met.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's
that's-
almost implied that the
yes.
order, number
Yeah.
1 should be after number 4.
Okay,
Right, and that's kind of what Chris was saying, that it's a subset of four. I. Would you were saying you don't wanna make them somebody else's problem, you were referring to other customers, right?
Yeah,
Not us, cause it's an opportunity for us. Sometimes, right? Not a problem. To have a customer would be an opportunity.
but it can be an
Yeah.
opportunity that's beneficial
Yeah.
to other customers
Yeah.
and the greater grid.
Right, so it's hard, but if it's costing them money, then that wouldn't be in. Once this policy is drafted, when a new customer approaches you, which they will, do you just, approve those customers? Does it come to the commission? Do new customers come to the commission at that point? It seems like that would be redundant if we had a policy in place that said, these are our guidelines, you fit it, we'll get you power. Does that make sense? So like
Yeah.
when we did AltaGas, it was brought to us, but we don't have a policy in place. So will each customer come to the commission, just out of curiosity?
I think at this point, with the size of the PUD and the number of large loads we have, we would take that to the commission,
Okay.
right? Because that's just a large account,
Mhm.
right? And we don't have a lot of those right
Right,
now.
yeah,
on the
yeah,
power
I mean,
side.
yes, that's great.
Right, so if we were
It wasn't a
to
test.
get large enough, maybe there would be a point where we would have an actual policy about when we need to bring that maybe down.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be comfortable signing on a large power customer right now with the size of our utility without taking it to you.
Okay,
Right, and that can be part of the policy. I mean, frankly, that would be a helpful guideline for everyone to see.
I agree.
yeah. I have another line of question that's not covered in these questions when we're ready for it.
Sure, I'm ready for it.
Oh, yeah, okay, so, and that has to do with the, other attributes of a data center. And let me just do it by analogy, if I may. Let's say there's a building, many buildings, commercial buildings that want a service. Could we pass a, as a special purpose district, of course, recognizing who we are? Could we pass a requirement that those buildings be LEED certified, for example?
It's land use. I mean, that's kind of along the lines of what we talked about.
Right, and for that reason, now by analogy, coming back to this, the subject matter at hand. People and I personally care a lot about efficient water use. There are practices around electronics and life cycle of the electronics at the data centers and their recycling. That I personally care about. You know. These things are choices that a data center developer makes. And probably fall outside of our scope. Is that an accurate statement? But at the same time, I don't want to encourage, I'm just gonna be clear, inefficient water use. And so a lot of the data centers, I think that will be approaching us in the future, will be doing their best on the things I just described. Life cycle of the electronics and water use. But a good actor versus a bad actor makes a big difference. For example, there was a metal recycling project. And, you know, it really makes a difference if you're a good actor or a bad actor, and how the community responds, and the land use decisions end up being pretty, much handled by county and city councils. So this kind of a project would require some kind of county council approval too, right?
Would imagine so.
Yeah, so, but that's not within our scope.
That being, I mean, we're talking in generalities, but yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is, you know, how does it affect the business of the PUD as authorized by statute? You know? And that can be somewhat broad, but Unless there's a tie-in, I think it's beyond the scope of the special purpose district probably.
You brought up something that I had concerns about though, so I love that we're drafting this policy, it makes things easier. Do we have or will we have a policy regarding water usage for large customers, like one large single? And those customers, so an industrial customer is very different from a municipality, right? We used to serve the city of Ferndale. So will there be any guideline in regard to water usage?
The commission briefly discussed, this before I actually assumed this position. In late May, I believe you discussed that we would pursue that separately from this policy on the electric side.
So we will
I think we
move
should.
forward with that.
Yeah.
And that concerns me because it will be discussing our inchoate water rights,
Mhm.
which doesn't seem like something we would just want to be doing in.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, we're talking about customer using PUD water.
Yeah,
And-
future
and the
water
policy
usage,
around that.
yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's worth discussion, and now you're
Uh-huh.
getting into how it affects the utility.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that has some nuances to it that we may need to talk about
But
separately.
the quantities here are de minimis
Yeah, okay.
in the big
Thanks.
picture thing.
Because I'm just looking at this and it's talking about the actual size of a load and like, would we be talking about the actual size of a water customer? And then obviously that would be a discussion about our inchoate water rights, and that just seems tricky, given.
Yeah, I mean, but we can
education.
set it up, I mean, part of it might be appropriate for executive session,
Yeah.
part of it might be appropriate for an attorney-client memo,
Okay.
and just let me know when it's time to flesh that out.
Okay, sorry to make the change, but.
That's
we
a
were
great
talking about
question.
size.
You know, are we frozen in time on water until adjudication is resolved?
Well, we shouldn't. be.
And I think we fielded some questions recently from some folks, you know, that, about, is there service available? You know, can we, expand it on water?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and that we need to get resolution on and clarity, so that the staff can act if we need to take on.
Yeah, I mean, I think until get further analysis and input, and I'm like, we're under the municipal water, we're a municipal utility, you know, people come to us for water, we supply water.
Mhm.
Right.
I also want to say that, you know, we're all members of the community. And we all know our county council members. And if we want to make recommendations, individually as citizens of the community on land use policy as it relates to this subject, on some of the, things that don't fall under our purview, we're all entitled to do so.
And we probably will.
We-
Some of us are pretty mouthy.
Yeah, so, sounds pretty massive.
Word of caution there, but I do think it,
I'm being mad.
Just one?
to the point, there is state law and policy, that's something of a moving target now to address data centers. There's federal, there's also county, and a wave of municipal action we're seeing, in Washington State recently, not yet in Whatcom County. In response to there being, you know, it's a lot of new development, a lot of proposals all at once, right? So naturally there's, you know, policies adaptive to that, and public officials are responding. It does seem important to be aware of and acknowledge like the context that our policies fit into, and also that if the state is moving to you know, put regulations on utilities around the bounds of large single loads and water, it seems like they are, yeah, we're gonna have to be adaptive for our policies to reflect that as well. And so it does seem, you know, recognizing that, yeah, there's these things that are outside of the purview of us as a public utility, and yet it would seem like having those things acknowledged in our policy seems appropriate also. Like, or maybe that's more of like in the FAQ kind of thing, and but, you know, I mean, granted, you'd assume that a prospective customer is doing their research when they're coming to us, right? But I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think it depends on the customer, right? Give me a little leash here, but if you make too many rules, right, you start becoming very restrictive in a way that there may be unintended consequences for your rules. Let me give you an example. Somebody wants to take over an existing older warehouse or other structure and use it for a different purpose, right? And it's not going to be a LEED certified facility by any means, right? Because it's older. And but the endeavor at that facility may meet our requirements as a 10 megawatt or larger load, and for whatever it is they're doing. But it has nothing to do with being a data center, which is a controversial, endeavor in the United States today. It could have nothing to do with that. It could just be a forest product type of thing, or any industry. But we could set rules that apply to all potential customers that would be restricted for that endeavor, right? In a way that we did not, that the commission may not intend, right? So we need to be very careful, and I think that the business rules that are put forward here in this draft policy don't create the conditions in which you have situations which you're creating restrictions for the development of business and industry in Whatcom County.
These aren't creating restrictions, they're just acknowledging the material restrictions that exist.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, this is really just the reality of what we can do and cannot do as a utility.
Right. Granted, I mean, perhaps though, I mean, number 2 and 3 are up to us, right? Like, and that's one actually. On 3, I'm not so sure. Granted, that is just the case. That's how we do things. All of our contracts are individually negotiated. I'm interested in moving to a place where, and as I guess it's probably maybe more steps down the road, where we would have more of a
Just rate structure.
Yeah, just like more, standardized.
I think if we were significantly larger, we could do
Definitely,
that.
yeah, we're
I
not
look
there yet.
forward to that day.
But granted that, being that they're individually negotiated, if, there's only like a few bullet points of these are the terms to expect and everything else is negotiable. I don't know, it would seem like we could get more detailed with it, right? Based on thresholds of scale, for instance, or we have the 10 MVA is a threshold, right? We already have, we can refer to the BPA contract, right? But and what do y'all think about, like, is that even a policy point to say we're only served by individually negotiated contracts? If that's just saying, that's just like that's status quo, right?
For a PUD our size, it's status quo. If we were much larger, it wouldn't be, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Are you suggesting that we just strike that because it's business as usual, which I'm fine with? But I think it might be good for, as a customer, a potential customer coming to this PUD that doesn't really know much about this PUD. It's a piece of information.
Right, that they would need to have.
Yeah, so that's, I think.
There's no published rates or
Yeah.
anything, so
Right.
we have nothing to show them, so that statement really
Yeah.
holds true for the potential customer to know that they're gonna have to, that'll be negotiated.
Right.
Yeah, I guess and I agree, it should be there, and that should be clear. I guess I'm more putting a pin in. I'm interested in seeing where it would go to have both for water and for power, if we're moving into additional customers, to be it probably would make more sense for water than for electric where we are right now. Where we're just, you know, we haven't even negotiated our second contract,
Right,
so.
I look forward to exploring that with water, I look forward to a lot of things
Right,
with water,
to,
yeah,
yeah, some standardization
yeah.
and, yeah, I guess you know, the second point, that's one, I absolutely support. And, I would maybe word it differently, than, you know, may only be served if they cause no increase. I mean, it's basically, we're saying we will not, like, our contract, you know, in our negotiation, we're not like, we're not going to, we're not going to raise rates as a result.
Right.
We're not going to structure anything in a way that would require us to raise rates, right? Uh, just because it's, you know, it's not, I don't know, like they don't cause the customer doesn't cause the increase in rates to other customers. We do,
Mhm.
right? That's us. We're saying we're not going to do that. So, and also not put ourselves in a, you know, in a revenue situation where we're, you know, at a loss because of it, right? That's all of that, so. You know, your points about efficiency and such, yeah, I mean, that's maybe something that we have to explore more, like even how much that even is in the bounds of what we can do.
Well, that's really gonna be related like building code. And Washington State code is very robust. So if you're not a lead facility, you're doing elements of that, just especially new construction,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we're in a position to provide rebates and things like that maybe PSC does to you know, private and commercial customers. When I was, you know, in my previous positions, we would pursue you know, rebates from PSC and for lighting and things like that, but we certainly didn't always attain lead. But that's all building code. And so that would be held at, you know, the city, county, state level for approval of zoning, things like that.
Right, right, recognizing that's all outside our purview. So I guess, okay, resolving one or four. And, or a, you know, combination, right? How do we want to, where do you think, any ideas how we should resolve this?
Well, I like the idea of one sort of being a subset of four
Yeah,
and maybe
right.
changing that language from must to something a little softer.
Okay, I'll work on it.
And I think that you're gonna take this as guidance. You're not, look, this isn't an. Do you need head nods from us, or we need a motion?
No, this is a head nod thing.
Yeah, head nod, so you're
Yeah,
gonna go, this is not gonna
guidance.
approve the exact language.
No,
you
it's
said,
guidance
right?
for them to draft
Yeah,
something more formal,
yeah.
that we would then review, right?
Exactly.
Great,
Uh,
good so far.
Okay.
recognizing also, you know, because we talked about the FAQ and stuff to make things clear to the general public. I don't think the layperson would really understand what it means to bring their
That's
own
kind of what I was
power
gonna
and,
do.
or what's the difference between bring your own power and self-supply, and, you know, like, these are, so yeah, I'd say like wording the new policy in a way that is also clear to the general public so that they don't, you know, someone doesn't go and see it cited and misinterpret it, you know, when they're representing what our rules are. Just to be, you know, clear and common language, as much as we can to while keeping it reasonably concise, but also specific. Because, you know, we're talking about, you know, yeah, ancillary services contracts. I have some, you know, I do wonder about, how we could get at, do more in our policy to make it clear that, or to incentivize, that new developments that we serve are like not just covering their own, they're beneficial overall, right? You know, bring your own power. Sure, that means there's new power, you know, they're adding, it's additive, they're essentially gonna be paying for additional generation. But if it's using up the limited transmission capacity which may be maxed out contractually already. I'm getting at like, the issue where there's, we had a 400 megawatt facility that closed 6 years ago, and, one would think then, oh, there's all that capacity that's freed up, it's not being used, but it's not, because it's been, the capacity in the system to get there.
The
to the last
generation
mile has
capacity
been
is
reallocated.
committed elsewhere, yeah.
Right. There's the last mile of where in the substation that can handle 400 megawatts, but the system can't deliver that, right? So, I mean, what I'm saying is that if we're, a developer might as well, they might go through and, we agree, we're gonna wheel power, but then we're using up all the capacity in the system to do that. I don't know what, how we could, what kind of tools we'd have to.
We make them use their own power. If we can't get them,
So, like,
they have to bring
Just to
their
be
own
really
power.
clear,
Yeah,
I don't know where these I believe, someone help me here, that these transmission lines across the Cascades start somewhere in the Richland area, right?
Some.
Yeah.
The two main paths across the Cascades are the ones you see coming across I-90, and then the ones coming through the Dalles into Portland. Those are the main corridors, and right now, the only project that's proposed to really enhance these corridors is the one to bring a high voltage line, I forget what it is, and actually plow it in the Columbia River and come down 70 miles of riverbed, because there's no routes left. And that's being hotly contested by everybody right now. And there's another one that if they end up doing something, it's gonna be 20-25 years of permitting.
I mean, but the answer to that question is if we cannot serve them, or if there's they need too much, they have to bring their own power. And I've seen them do this in multiple ways. They set up, large scale solar systems to feed their own, the electric,
So, yeah.
yeah, and
Exactly.
that's
yeah.
why the language is in here. I don't, as far as the facts go, I think people are smart enough to know what bring their own power is. I don't think we'll see, extension cords going from my house to the new data center. But I do think things like ancillary services are confusing and maybe should be spelled out.
You're talking about self-supply.
Bring your own power means you're going to have your own power. You will have to have your own power source, and I think the public is pretty smart.
Well, but
To,
the distinction is whether you're paying for your own power to be delivered versus building it on site and generating right there.
but we're literally talking about, that's their problem. They have to do it. It's their own.
Well, if it's bring your own, it's our problem because we still have to deliver it. If it's self-supply, then
Well, bringing their own is literally also having their own power supply right next to their own solar is also bring your own.
No, that's the distinction I'm talking about. That's self-supply. Right, that's the difference.
I think that's a fair statement, I think but we're implying the same thing. They need to
Yes.
supply their own power.
Yes.
We'll change the language to make it more clear.
And both are, I mean, it's acceptable to supply on-site. It's acceptable to supply it adjacent site. It's acceptable to supply it and enter into transmission agreement in Richland.
Yeah,
They're different. No, they have different, they're different though.
but what it means.
They are
the
different, yeah.
PUD is not doing it.
But
That's-
one of the, but no,
But
if
that's the
if they're
key distinction.
bringing
We're
their
not
own
doing it.
power and paying for generation that has to be delivered through the BPA transmission system and our transmission system to reach them, they're bringing their own power, but that's different than if there's on-site generation being built, in
Absolutely.
which case, here's what I don't understand is and maybe to clarify in the language, if they're building their own on-site generation, then that's outside of their contract with us, right?
They won't have a contract with us.
They might still want to be grid tied in
Yeah,
addition to
It
their
might be
self,
good
yeah.
tide, yeah.
It's just that it reduces their overall demand to have their own generation.
So I think everybody's correct here, right? So statement one is implying that if you want power and we don't have it, and we want to get from the grid, right? To your point, they have to pay for that, and that cost may be monstrous, right? But that would be an external supply, right? But they would have to pay for that, right? The way these rules are written, the points 1 and 4 working together, right? You may have to self-supply with your own generation, right? To the point going back to rule number 1, where it refers to interconnection services. That's where we're talking about, we don't have it, but if you want it, you can pay for getting it from the market, but you're gonna have to pay for everything related to that. And that may actually cost more than just building your own small source of power on site,
Mhm.
right? So these things, to Chris's point, are points 1 and 4 work together. One's a subset of the other. So there are going to be circumstances in which we, as the PUD, don't have within our network, within our current existing infrastructure, the ability to provide power. And the potential customer has the choice of paying all the capital expenses and ancillary expenses related to getting grid source power to their site, or self-generating on site to point number 4. So, but in either case, those costs need to be incurred by that potential customer, right? Because we cannot really provide those services.
Commissioners, may I add something?
Please.
It's okay. I think that you were sort of having two different conversations.
Yeah.
One is about communication, right? I'm sure you're saying you're concerned that the way the policy is written, people aren't necessarily gonna understand what that means. And I think really they're two different forms of communication with two different audiences, right? You have a policy that the potential customers are gonna understand. And then maybe what we have, like you were talking about earlier, is something on the website that community members are gonna be interested in what we're doing about that. And that's gonna be more worded, but not necessarily in policy. So I think you're just looking at two different forms of communication because you have two entirely different audiences. And I think we can address those concerns when we start, after policy is in place and we start addressing that so that the public can understand
Totally.
what that means.
Absolutely.
So I think you guys are kind of getting in those two topics
Right.
together.
For sure, yeah, and also that it is confusing, but to be clear, like bring your own power doesn't necessarily mean a directly adjacent generation being built, right? That means that can be bring your own through the system
Well,
through
yeah,
contracts, right?
and we talk about generation and transport, and there's a lot of, yes,
Right.
yes.
And and bring your own power may or may not entail also bringing their own additional transmission capacity,
Mhm.
right?
And bring your own power may mean that we have nothing to do with it, right? I think that's where it does though, that's the difference, is what I'm saying, bring your own power means they're paying for it, but we're still Always,
delivering it.
always, bring your own power always means that we're involved in that.
I mean,
If we develop a contract.
If we develop a
customer
contract,
that,
but-
say PSC says we can't do it, or
Right.
don't wanna do it, right? Well, we can set those terms within a negotiated contract of what that is, so that they can get that power, right? That may be bringing in transmission. At that point, the customer can look at that, and if you're in private enterprise, like where I come from, I would look at that and say, well, that's one option. The other option is I'll self-generate on site. I won't be connected to anything. I'll just run these generators during the day, or I'll build some solar, whatever I'll do. And they'll have to make a business decision, right?
Right,
To either go with us to get interconnected, or to self-generate on site behind the meter.
Yeah.
Does
I
that?
think we just
think
need
that's-
a little more, we need to be more clear in the distinctions in the way we laid out in the final policy. Maybe that's just the general
Okay.
feedback.
I think maybe what you're, so you're looking at this as like, these are and maybe this is just a communication error between the two of us. That anybody who's looking at this is going to be entering into a contract with us. Right, that's it specifically has to do with your relationship with us. And maybe I'm looking at this as like, this is what we can offer, and if we can't offer it, you've got to do something else. Right.
And yeah,
So that's the difference.
or as a combination of things.
Right.
They'll get this much through us, and
Right.
they'll also have their own their own generation in their facility, which has, been done before. There was two power plants that we serve with water. They weren't originally built by utilities, they were built by the refineries, and then Puget Energy eventually acquired them, right? And now they're utility facilities, but I think, yeah, just basically I think to be more clear about the line between where there's new power that is being served through us and power that is, the way it's worded now, I mean, if it's self-supply, then we're not serving them, or we're not serving their self-supply versus we're still serving their own power, right? Just distinguishing between those things. I also, I'm interested in where terms might come into play around flexible loads, which is something that is negotiated in utility contracts, and where there's also policy being made around this, in the state and federal level. Would we, where might, like, could you see that being something that would come into a contract potentially?
Are you talking about situations where we would turn down or even turn off?
Adaptive load? you mean?
Yeah, like demand response,
Demand response.
where like they get approval in a certain price, but give with the, contingency that they may have to.
I think
turn
that's
down.
something worth talking about, but I think in revision one, I wouldn't put that in here. Yeah, at this stage in the game, as small as we are, but it would be something we should be talking about.
And isn't that kind of covered in your individually negotiated
Yeah.
contracts?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, on one hand, I know there's a goal to be standardized, but you have the beauty of it now is that you can be more flexible and adaptive to a situation, but that would be negotiated in the contract.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me that there might be an instrument that we can utilize as a commission that would be beneficial. Split second, and
Yeah,
that-
it's
that is to, when councils pass things, they have got whereases and be it resolves. The be it resolves can't say anything about land use. But in the whereas, it said, while we're looking for opportunities to supply power that supply grid stability issues, for example, including adaptive demand, and efficient water use, and there can be kind of whereas statements. So here's what we're really looking for. We could say that in terms of what we would ideally like. We just can't stipulate our policy saying that we won't supply people that are not being efficient, for example. We could say we'd love to have people that come in and that are emphasizing efficiency and life cycle impact. And then specifically, but not stipulate that. What do you think about that?
Well, so, but it confused me when you talk about water in this context. First of all, so, if your policy as to new load customers on the electrical side seems like your policy statements, whether it's the whereas tells the story, tells your thinking. And so the whereas are used
It
to,
can't be disjointed.
they're usually findings or some
Yeah,
background that
okay.
support your
Never mind.
policy, but.
Yeah.
When you talk about efficiency on the electrical side, I can't sit here and say there's nothing for the PUD to be involved in that. I can't say that because
It matters.
PSC has rebates and whatnot. So, but where my mind goes is always the thing to keep in mind is when you start having policy conditions, you have to be able to enforce those. So I think about always keep in mind the downstream effect of having a requirement, what that's gonna require
Sure.
of your staff and administrative to enforce or verify or whatever the case may be.
And I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm exploring lots of ideas. I mean, personally, I'm exploring lots of ideas.
I just have I don't know, you're talking about efficiency and we're like, oh, that's building code, whatever. I'm just thinking back to like a government grant that I received, for youth recreational facilities, like so. And that there was a stipulation in that any building that was built with that money had to be LEED certified. We could, why couldn't we include something in our?
That's a private grant. You can do anything you want in a private grant.
Yeah, and well,
Very
and this is a contract between the PUD, if we are supplying power to them. Why could it not be put into a contract that the building has to be LEED certified?
Well, that's kind of why I brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it couldn't be.
As long as you can articulate, you can have whatever condition you want if you can articulate how it's within the scope of your special purpose district powers. Let me put it more, and so then that just begs the question, okay, well, maybe there are aspects of LEED certification that would tie into conserving power.
Of course.
But not all of it.
Right.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
So
Remember, a LEED certification applies really to a building or a structure, not necessarily the operations within it. Right.
And we're using this as somewhat for part of analogy. Everybody knows what lead is. I'm not exactly saying lead for, I'm not for this case. I'm just using it in top.
Energy
corporate-
efficiency
Yeah.
and
and so then the question in my mind is, my point was, who among staff is gonna go, I guess, I know there are certifications for these kinds of things, but if it's not an adopted certification, who here is going to go out and inspect that building and verify that you're complying with the contract?
Yeah. And
In
we'll
that
get
respect,
we'll
Now,
get
a certified
into
energy
cap.
manager
yeah.
that we'll have to hire, right, yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah, we'll.
I mean, I just want to be
Okay.
clear, it
We'll
it's
look at down
a
there.
possibility. That's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we could put in a
Um,
contract, but I don't have it.
But I wanna say here something, that there is currently no data center best practices standard that I looked into it last week and I didn't find, let me just put it that way. I don't know, I'm sure there's people talking about it. But I couldn't find yet a standard for data center best practice. I'm sure there's going to be one developed in the next couple of years, if not sooner. And that's something to explore. What if we could work with that body that's developing best practices for data centers? We could even reach out to that body and find out where they're at and time our policies development with that.
I love these conversations and I wonder if it actually pertains to this particular policy or if we're talking about very big ideas that require maybe a separate session, because we've been talking about this for 45 minutes.
Granted,
More than
yeah,
that.
we probably need to move on. So let's bring this to a close and say that we've, given feedback on this. This is, I think probably got the right ideas to move forward with, something simple to start with. And it's an area that we'll probably continue to build on, as things move. It won't be, it's not a one and done. This isn't it. This will be iterative probably over time.
That's yeah, exactly, right.
But this seems like a good starting place, and so let's, we'll discuss some draft at a later date, and, was there anything else you wanted to report?
The only other thing I have is, hey, Chris, I just want to extend to you, I've spent this month with you, and, deep thanks, for all the turnover. For everybody, there are a wide range of complex issues in play that the staff are dealing with, right? That Chris has been dealing with, and it's eye-opening coming into the job, the complexities of the job. And, Chris has done a fantastic job, from what I can measure with a lot of all those range of issues. But I think the single biggest success that I've seen is the staff that Chris has built. And, absolutely fantastic. Everybody wears multiple hats here. And, so hats off to you, sir. I wish you the best in your retirement. All right. Thank you.
Here,
It's a shared sentiment. We're gonna get to that later,
the back tank is coming too.
though. We'll move on to our operations report.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
As we brought to you a kind of presentation in March, talking about plant one. Give you kind of an update of where things are at and some of the challenges that we could potentially encounter, and one of them was being permitting. And that's kind of not necessarily come to pass, but that is something that we're dealing with quite a bit right now. We had our a big response in the sense of it's a kind of milestone from the city of Ferndale on a lot of our permitting with the shoreline substantial development and other rural designations and just different stuff like that. And so right now we're working on our response to the city as far as kind of how shoreline, floodplain, that kind of stuff. And so we're starting to think that maybe our timeline might get pushed back a little bit. I don't have any change of dates at this moment right now, but I just been discussing it with Garrett and Tony, and wanted to kind of just bring you guys up to speed, give you another update. I think probably in about 6 to 8 weeks, I should be able to come back and we'll have response. We'll have responded to the city, they'll respond back, and so we'll kind of have a better idea of where we are with that. As you know, it's a huge project. There's gonna be some moving pieces. We spent a lot of time thinking about it, discussing about it, waking up in the morning, thinking about it. But it was a big milestone to get that report into the city of Ferndale, and they gave some response, and now we are responding back.
Great.
Yes.
So one of the things that I've raised before, and I just want to highlight again, is that the impact of permitting related delays impact our burn rate. Impact our capital expenditures towards the project. I impact the timing and our cash position relative to bond payments, and what I've been told before. It does not appear to be too severe because the interest related income covers the debt service. So that's good to know. So no severe financial impacts yet. But things are continue to get more expensive as time goes on. So
Yes.
so that's an important thing to track, and refinancially tracking all of that is really important. So we're gonna have to do lots of recaps just to make sure that we're in good shape on the amount of money we have, and I assume that is something that our new GM is going to be tracking very closely.
Right, and granted, but that's always been the plan, right? When we're gonna go for our next round of financing, at that point, we'll have a more clear and updated timeline.
Right, at that point, we'll be in construction,
Right,
or at least have it started before we start thinking about the next phase.
like we'll have all our
That's
permits.
true, that
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
yeah,
the tools at our
okay.
disposal to bring alignment back, so.
And this isn't a permitting delay so much as we submitted our applications, and then now that we're you know, now
I
that
think we
we've
have some
heard back
delays.
from the,
I
from the
think-
authority that we may have to adjust our timeline because expectations were a little off from what we had before.
Perhaps, right,
Yeah.
No, but if we look at the budget reports we've gotten, we're behind on spending money.
on spending money.
That's a delay. And spending money is how you build things. So we're behind on meeting our original goals for when things are gonna get built and to
Did
what
our-
level.
Did our pre-application
We are behind.
process take
We are
longer than
behind.
anticipated, or
Say again?
was the pre-application process and getting to this point, this took longer than anticipated?
I think it has, that part took a little longer than we did.
Yeah.
We are behind.
And is it that there's just
It's-
requirements that are more complicated than we had
Right,
foreseen?
it's like, I mean, this is, one other thing that we're dealing with is also, there's the levy project that the county and the city are doing, and part of our stuff, part of our project is going to, not necessarily interface in the sense where we'll be working together, but we'll be working in the same areas at some point, whether it's, you know, we're 12 months ahead of them or whatever it is. There's something that we have to, we knew it was coming, but we didn't really fully put it into our planning schedule. That was, you know, that was somebody else's project. And so that's when, as we get closer to that, we get a better idea of what their schedule is, what our schedule is, and so those are things we have to account for as well.
If you need to spend money faster, you just let me know.
Oh, we have people on staff who are.
Yeah.
But I understand Commissioner Desmond.
Hearing budget.
Commissioner Desmond is correct in our.
You said 6 to 8 weeks, we should have a more updated timeline.
Right, yeah, well, like I said, we respond to the cities, they'll give us some stuff back, and so we're in that early stage of really getting into the meat of the permitting.
Right.
So I just wanted to give you an update of where things are.
Thank you.
And then, my next one is the transmission line and substation, electric substation we're looking to build out in the end of Douglas Road. So we know we're getting our power from BPA, but we also have a tie-in with PSE. And so we've been working with PSE to kind of, they've had some questions and some current concerns. We have an agreement with them to, they can use our line to send power to BPA. And they're kind of our backup for the Phillips substation, and so they've had some questions that we're trying to gather information for them to provide answers for their questions, and then also at the intersection of Lake Terrell Road and Union Road is where we want to pass their line, and so there's gonna be some engineering to be worked through on that part of the transmission line. Cause they have stuff running north-south and we wanna run past east-west, so there has to be some. Not necessarily agreement, if that's the right word, but just we have to work with them to make that pass.
Mm.
Cause we're talking.
Is there, it's a formal requirement that we need to, whenever we cross lines, we need to
Well, that's what we're trying to,
identify if we were formally required to or not.
right, that's kind of where we're working through. But those are things that we were kind of, it's like permitting things, you're like, you try and cover all your bases, but sometimes it's things that never thought of, that you have to deal with, so. That's another, just kind of giving you an update of where things are, and we're working, we're in communication with PSC, I mean, we're not. They're a separate entity, and we're not working with them as a regular thing, like, we're working with the city of Ferndale back and forth. This is the same sort of communication.
Right.
But again, this is just letting you know that these are the things that we're kind of, chewing on and trying to get through.
So, and like, until we have agreements worked out with Puget, there's a little bit of uncertainty, but we might have to adjust our plan,
Right.
our project design and all that.
And we're still on for getting our 30% plans in the middle of July, approximately, that's a month from now. We're still on track to get those 30% plans, so that'll give us a better idea of what kind of other constraints we might have there. And then that's something that we can also have as something to work with PSC, like this is the information, that we have a much better idea of where things are at, the way things are going there.
So are things otherwise, like are other things gonna, like our permit, is otherwise permitting moving concurrently?
Oh, yeah,
So
we started with, Garrett started permitting with the county on the path for transmission and the location for the substation, that's already been started.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if it turns out that we're gonna have to, like, is there a possibility we have to change our route or something? And have to then go back and do the permitting all over again?
I mean, that's a possibility, that's not really an avenue we're looking to explore, we're looking to work with PSC.
Yeah, right, we should be able to work,
And try and find a way to get through there.
but we're gonna have to physically cross.
Yeah, there's
cross
gonna be a
pathways, yeah,
physical cross,
Yeah.
And it's a busy highway,
yeah.
right?
There's transmission on one side of the road and there's distribution on the other side of the road, so you have different elevations. And then we're coming through with transmission. So it's an engineering.
There's already a lot of lines on that road
right,
at this intersection.
So just wanted to give you an update, keep you up to speed on things. Again, 30% in July, should be able to show that to you guys by maybe the second meeting in July, hopefully.
okay, not
Thanks.
long, yeah. Thanks for the update.
Of course. And just on a real, definitely a operations level thing, we had like a certified contractor come in and do some adjustments on a lot of our automated valves, on the valve controls. And so we just had a crew come in last week, spent two and a half days here on site, working on valves, doing calibrations, and they're gonna provide a report to us on any work that we need to be done. But that's something that hasn't been done in a long time. We've done a lot of this work in-house. There's work that's done when it's a new install, when there's work that's done in-house, but we haven't had a rep come out and really do like a survey and touching all these automated valves. So that's a good resilience strategy for the plants. So.
That's good.
Thank you.
In the field update, so there you go. Any questions?
Glad to hear it, but thank you. We're ready to move on to our broadband update.
They're gonna hot potato it back and forth, is that what's going
So I
on?
can jump in?
Yeah, jump in.
Perfect, there's, well, I'll start with, we met with the Port of Bellingham yesterday, Chris and I did, and had a great meeting. It had been some time since we had met for our steering committee. But we had talked about, current projects, the Port's current projects, our project, BEAD projects, and then maybe what happens post BEAD, and, the BEAD for the Port of Bellingham, I think it's like $18.5 million total to serve roughly 2,000 unserved customers, which is a great thing for the port and providers that they're working with.
Say the number again.
I think it's 18.5 million that the port will be receiving. That's including the matching dollars that will come from the state for roughly 2,000 end users. I think it's 1,958 to be exact. So if you think about it, we're kind of, so all the previously funded efforts are, like, if you think about a map of who's served and who's not, we're kind of like at a point where we're frozen in time, because what has happened is we've captured everyone who said they're going to be building something. We've captured everyone who's already served, and now we've had BEAD to fill in all everyone else. So really right now, there's no new opportunities to serve anyone because it's technically everyone's served now, or they're going to be. And so that begs the question of the value and the benefit of putting together a new interlocal agreement between the port and the PUD and maybe the Lummi tribe, unless it's maybe project specific. So we talked about that and how do we get that off the ground, because we've had a couple of meetings now. We've talked about maybe a three-way interlocal agreement between the port and PUD and the tribe and what that would look like. So we talked about that at the meeting. But we know for sure that those dots that were on the map for the Point Roberts project are going to be coming off. So there'll be at some point, we think, future funding for those areas that maybe have been funded but won't get funded for whatever reason. So I think in post-BEAD, I think there'll be opportunities for additional broadband funding. So I've been also meeting with, so that was the steering committee. I've also been meeting with Kaylee at the tribe, and we've been talking about what that interlocal could look like as well. So I need to meet with her after meeting with the steering committee and see what direction they feel comfortable going with. So that's a moving piece. Did I miss anything, Chris, from the steering committee?
No, it was a good meeting.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I think the port is kind of in a similar position on a number of their projects that we are with Point Roberts. They're running out of time. So I don't think we have any feedback statewide from the broadband office, but just the kind of scuttlebutt is that there's a lot of these projects out there that aren't gonna make it. Point Roberts is not.
Any update on the county trying to recoup money from
Yeah.
the
Yes.
grant?
Could we come to that after I kind of, before
Sure.
we do that, could we talk about the work projects real quick? What Chris just talked about, the 26th deadline.
Sure, yeah.
I want, before we move on to another topic, I wanted to stick with this one, and that is, I've heard that there's potential that the port staff are gonna recommend cancellation of their projects too. In North Linden and Ferndale. And is there any pathway to recover those projects?
I mean, possibly, I think there's a few options that the port has if they're willing to explore them, but again, it'll come down to timing, like what Chris stated. So I think, and you wouldn't want to get into a position where you explore an alternative and you run up against the deadline and then you don't have your completed project and you're out of time and you've spent money. And you risk the federal clawback provisions for not completing the project because you spent those capital construction dollars. So I think that's a concern. Like Chris was alluding to, the local projects and projects around the state as well. But yeah, I think Chris could add. Yeah, it's tough right now.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Back to my money question. No update?
Yes, so we created, I guess, what I would call a reconsideration package, which just comes from the agreement that we have with the county, articulating and pointing and directing them to areas that we feel, we're not obligated to pay for the dollars. And had Tony review, and we've sent it over to legal to finalize. And once we get their blessing or any updates or changes, which I don't imagine will be significant, we could send it back to the county.
So the port will be in the same situation if they cancel their projects.
That would be up to the county to move forward to the port in the same fashion, whether they decide to do that or not is unknown to me.
And I'm not privy to that interlocal agreement that they might have. Our interlocal agreements specifically calls out where there's a provision in section 4 of our interlocal with the county, where in which we can submit, and they are required in our interlocal agreement to submit that to Treasury on our behalf to exempt some of the work that's done from recoupment.
So let's get a little bit more specific here, on our Point Roberts project, of the 300 and something $1,000 that was spent, is any of that money in internal PUD money, or is it all vendors?
Well, the dollars you're speaking about specifically were matching dollars for design, engineering, permitting, pre-construction activities, but the PUD technically did incur, staff costs and salary.
But that's not part of that 300 something?
No, that's
Okay, so that 3 is all for vendors outside of the PUD?
correct.
And those firms include design, engineering, build firms that we hired.
Mhm.
Does any of that include PSE?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, another question I have is that when there's this kind of a termination of a project, there's often conversations about things that were on the edge of when the termination notice happened. Okay, so I'm building a deck, let's say, and, I decided not to build a deck. But I hired the contractor and I started sending the contractor checks. And, we got to a point where, well, Tool, I bought this, you know, but I didn't actually invoice you for it yet because it was part of this. So are there things, is there a significant amount of expenses that we still expect vendors to come back to us now that we've given them a termination notice, or that exceeds that number that you said, that was, you know, formally paid invoice, that number, 300 and something $1,000, I don't remember the number, okay, whatever it is the invoices that we paid, or about to pay, or whatever. That's one thing, but there's things that fall over the edge that are claims from our vendors, legitimate claims from our vendors for stuff that was partially completed. Is there a lot of that amount of money?
I'm aware of one invoice, it was $6,000 or $7,000, so I'd have to go back and look at it.
Okay, it's not a lot of money.
That was not paid by the county at the time. It's in the letter from the county, in which they were claiming the recoupment. They also state that they are refusing to pay that last invoice.
And so there's on the orders of, and no other communications from vendors for like stuff that is problematic to terminate, or that there were additional expenses incurred that were not covered in invoices that we paid.
Yeah, I would have to verify that, are you then?
Yes, we do have additional invoices that will be coming in from PSC for their make-ready review. And when you submit your design to PSC, they need to review it and load up that stuff, and you get charged for that.
And how much do those constitute?
It depends on the specific poll, and they run them in through packages, which includes multiple polls. And when we recently asked them for the specific dollar amount we can expect that's remaining, they're unable to provide that to us. And so I've had the conversation with the funding agency, because remember, we have three different funding, three different pots of funding for this one project.
Mhm.
One is the matching dollars, one is the direct state capital allocation, and the other is the large 3.1 federal piece. So we've exhausted the matching dollars. The next step would be for any cost overruns after closeout of the project, we would attempt to dip into the state capital dollars, even though the project has been closed out. Whether or not that will get approved.
Right.
And we've asked the question, and what was asked of me was to just tally up all of your invoices and send it to us. And so that's what we're gonna do.
Thank you.
Cause I'm just saying that happens.
Yeah.
When projects
Yeah.
terminate,
There's probably still some stranded money out there,
or stranded invoices.
Stranded
Right.
money.
Yeah.
right?
And we can expect the same thing as a situation with the port on North Linden and Ferndale. That's all, basically what I'm saying here, colleagues, is that, all of the projects that we secured funding for before the BEAD round of funding that came to the newly created broadband office are in danger. And I'll leave it at that.
Let's get some good news.
Luckily, we got.
What do you
cupcake
got?
building.
What's a good news?
Yes,
Well, is that it for broadband then?
I've got nothing else.
So,
That's nice.
you know, we'll continue to be in amicable communication with the county and come to agreements, I'm sure, I hope. So adjudication.
Yeah, so there's no real substantive changes since Sarah provided her information at the last meeting. There was a June 12th meeting, still talking about process, preserving testimony, that sort of thing. There is another committee meeting on June 26th. They tend to meet weekly. They didn't meet this last Friday. And I just of note, on July 13th, I got notice by email that there's going to be, Superior Court is going to the Linden Municipal Court for kind of a traveling court on adjudication. So they're gonna have their, the steering committee status hearing before the court is going to occur at Linden Municipal Court on July 13th. And after that, they're going to have some informal guidance for claim filing. Yeah, pull that one up here, but yeah, traveling court.
Great,
There's usually a carnival and cotton candy at those events. And so-
amazing.
So
Earring vendors.
that's it.
When is that gonna, do we know when that's gonna be?
Yeah, let's pull this up, traveling court. Look, it's at the location is it's Linden Municipal Court.
Municipal Court at
Linden,
what time?
it's at 9 AM. And court staff. This is after court, stick around for an informal session on how to file your claim form using online services.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I've brought this up a couple times before, just floating an idea here to institute something of a halfway recess in our meetings when, they're going on where, like 80 minutes in, be good to, would you all be okay with taking like a 5-minute stretch break?
Sure. Yeah.
And say just 5 minutes recess and resume at,
And we'll come back with, we're done with adjudication, we'll come back with new.
we'll come back and start on new customer
Okay.
update, 9:42 AM. That's okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you. We will now resume the meeting if we can update and resume. Okay, cool. We're back in. Resume from recess. And our new customer update. Do we have anything?
Nothing to add now.
Okay. In that case, let's move to our geothermal update. Few things.
Want to get into that?
Sure, I'll dive in and then pass it back over to you. Last meeting, we had reviewed draft environmental, EAs, and those comments were due by the 12th. But we were looking to get those submitted by the 11th, so we took what you all reviewed and submitted those. And I know there was some back and forth between some suggested changes that I just wasn't able to incorporate in time because I was out. But
It's no big deal. Yeah, it's more it's form, not substance anyway.
yeah,
There was I think it's all good. Thank you for the letter, Andrew. I did notice, I went and looked at some of the other comments.
Oh, cool.
They're all available online. There's a bit of a range of, there's some supportive, but but also noting particular things I think should be looked into further. There was a number of comments basically asking for a more robust environmental assessment, and some that seemed to be not supportive of the goals overall. And
Out of curiosity, did they state why they weren't supportive of the goals overall?
conservation, generally just concerns around development in the area being adjacent to the wilderness and natural and nationally protected areas. There was I think there was a bit of a range, but yeah, there was some substantive letters, and there was quite a long one co-signed by a number of groups. So I would just encourage you all to, I don't know, if you would like to take a look at that. I don't know, did you have any thoughts on that, Andrew?
No, I think you did, your summary was.
Could I ask a favor? Could you send us a link on where all those comp letters are? Or is it super easy to find?
Yeah, if you go, well, it's just like on the project page on the USFS website,
Okay.
there's a. Maybe you could get the
Yeah, I'll
link out,
send
yeah.
it. No problem. Yeah.
It's really just for reference, cause I mean, so at this point, right, we're gonna wait and hear back about a final EA. Is that more or less?
Yes, on the website, their estimated timeline is to have a decision by September.
After our last commission meeting, I reread your letter and I'm big thinking about, you know, the fact that, I want to confirm that the Nuke Sector did not submit a comment letter. Do you know?
I believe they did.
They did
Yes.
submit a letter.
And so did Hero, our energy resource.
Oh, cool. Did you read those? I'll read them.
Yeah, I didn't read everything on there,
Okay.
more of a skim, you know, Hero submitted, yes, as well, yeah. It's just good to get the lay of the land, you know, granted, you know, we don't know what they're.
But we can only control what we do and to some degree, constructively benefit what our partners are doing. And I feel good about our team effort then.
Hopefully we'll get some answers to the questions in our comment. And we expect, I mean, I guess have we heard anything, any kind of direct response from the USFS yet, other than thank you for your comment?
No,
No.
we got an automated message saying our submission has been.
Yeah, I'll note, it is a bit confusing because, you know, in a NEPA process, right, there's a lead agent and there's, you know, points of contact who are conducting the review. And so there's this Robert James Forest geologist, staff lead, the Mount Baker Ranger District. He doesn't work there. That's listed because it's the closest ranger station to the project area, but it's actually staffed by a nonprofit.
Oh.
Most, except on Mondays,
Is that
I think.
is that the North Cascades?
Yeah, North Cascades Institute staffs it. It's basically, you know, it's a place to get maps and gift shop items. And so they run that. And then on Mondays is the only day you actually have a USFS ranger in there. You know, I went and like stopped by the station. I think, you know, Andrew called and, yeah, this guy, if he's ever even, you know, he doesn't work out of there and no one knows who he is. And we don't even know if he's in Washington State. So no one's been, you know, wasn't able to reach him yet. And that's all fair. But yeah, it's a bit of a, yeah, it was hard to get any kind of like direct answers to questions. So they're laid out here and hopefully we'll get a real response. But I did, took a little trip and looked up, you know, drove up around some of the areas or closer to, you know, near the Baker Dams and adjacent to the leasing area. And, you know, was just reminded and doing a little, you know, roadside tour again of just how much land disturbance there already is in the area. You know, you have 2 hydroelectric power plants, you have a lot of clear cuts, you have derelict quarries and mines and shooting quarries and you know, and active ones, and you know, just a lot of sites around there. Granted, it was a little bit outside of the federal leasing area, but you know, near the county line and adjacent to Baker Lake, and where you know, hopefully we could, you know, there's going to be a place, right, or we
Yeah,
can
and I'd hope
that's a
that.
previously disturbed site that's appropriate conducting activity, right, where everything can be accounted for.
And I don't, I mean, one of the things that's beneficial about our project is that it, there's beneficial access. There's usual and accustomed hunting and fishing that is largely inaccessible today for tribes. And you know, good infrastructure, well-maintained infrastructure that a public entity like ourselves we would only do it properly. Also provides the opportunity to provide secondary benefits, which includes, you know, as I said, usual and custom. Another benefit is that places get neglected. And maintenance allows, maintenance access and facilities and all that, access for things that have been problematic, like derelict sites. To be watched and, kept, obviously it's not our problem, but we can help identify and create access for those sites to be remediated appropriately.
Right.
So there's many benefits to thoughtful development and, we're kidding ourselves to think that there's not stuff to deal with in there, including fire management and ecosystem management that improves when you've got good access.
It's a good point.
So,
What's the size of a geothermal plant? Like how much space are we asking to take up?
And
That
Anybody?
really depend on the
And-
generation size of the plant.
I mean,
Right.
it's generally pretty small,
Small.
right? It's not, we're not talking large facilities,
No.
is that correct?
it depends what you call large, but
Yeah.
when we talked about it, it was like an acre.
I mean, that's pretty small,
That's pretty small.
yeah,
I think it's too small to do any work.
right? Sorry, just curious.
What are you looking for, the actual power plant itself?
It just how much ground are we taking up, right? Like the,
The initial look that we had at it, and this goes back 3 years, and it's off the Department of Energy's website. There's land that's in, you gotta have the wellheads, either the injection or the
Right.
recovery wells. So you got water down, water up. And then you've got the pipelines that convey that water, from the wells to the actual power plant. And then you've got the power plant itself. The power plant itself is gonna it's gonna look a lot like a typical steam turbine generator. So you're gonna have a few acres and a switch yard. So you're probably looking at 5, 6, 7 acres for a small, 25 MVA, installation. But if you're looking at a gigawatt, or like we're looking at here, about 850 megawatts. Then you're looking at encumbering more than 1,000 acres total, because you're gonna have many wells. You're gonna have the pipelines, and you're gonna have at least 5 of these, small power plants scattered around. The total encumbrance that we figured on that was about 1,500 acres
okay.
for a 1,000 megawatt plant, so bigger than what we're planning on.
Mhm.
But a lot of that encumbrance is gonna be the, water pipes to and from wells. And that can be either subsurface, or it'll be right at surface, up on pylons, and easily screened. So much of what can be installed for a geothermal plant can be visually screened and secured, very, very easily. And, 1,000 megawatts of solar is somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 acres.
Right,
So you're talking 1,000 megawatts of geothermal for less than 0.5% of the encumbrance of the equivalent solar.
I feel like that's good information
That's really
for the
good.
scale of things.
Yeah, and Andrew actually put all that stuff together. I'm quoting from one of his
Yeah.
presentations, so this is, he did all the research on that 3 years ago, and we put it together. That was part of our tour of the community, telling them, hey, this is what we're looking at trying to do. And he even put together pictures of a bunch of these smaller plants that have been around for a while, and they were adequately screened. And unless you're right on top of them, you don't even know they're there. And
What is-
closed cycle, there's no steam plume. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
What is the footprint of the actual, of, 4 or 5, each of the small the individual power plants that produce whatever 200 megawatts, what is their footprint of those campuses?
So they were designed at 50 megawatt, they're twin 25 sitting side by side, and my guesstimate would be, it would be in the 6 to 10 acre range.
Okay,
That might be a little bit low, but it won't be very low.
so when you talk about encumbrance, you're talking about the entire footprint with setbacks,
So, and
for the steam
pipelines
lines and
the
all that, yeah.
wellheads.
And for the exploratory drilling and then that element of the project, probably how much space does that require?
An acre.
Just an acre, so
You need enough room to turn a truck around.
basically, yeah.
Are the pipelines on top of the ground or underneath ground too?
That's determined by the final FERC license.
Okay, So they, yeah, that's, I'm just curious about wildlife disturbances with pipelines, that they're elevated as opposed to on the ground or in the ground.
And typically, the elevated ones are up high enough so that deer can walk under them without banging their heads. And then you just don't worry about it. It hasn't really created any kind of an impediment. That's how they built the Alaska pipeline, for instance. Was so that the caribou could migrate right through it and not even know it was there, essentially.
Thank you.
Okay, well, anything else?
That's it, that's it.
Um, Thank you, Andrew, and suppose we'll move to new business. Item A is budgeting to meet strategic planning goals. Annette.
Good morning,
Anna.
commissioners. So this is our typical pre-budget discussion that we normally have. Commissioner O'Toole several months ago had asked that we move it before we even start our budget, so that we could just kind of get some feedback from you, some ideas, some direction for our budget that we're going to start probably, just start setting up next month. So this is your discussion. So I'm here with my notepad to take notes.
Great. I've got two items, if we feel ready.
Go for it.
So, there's two items. The first item is on, it was a perfect segue talking about geothermal. Obviously, we're all in and wanting to see the success of geothermal. I want us to take a look at some of the other power supply options, and I want us to create some budget for studying some of those other power supply options. And they vary. I've talked to staff, to you, Anthony and certainly Chris before, about some of the other possibilities. They include renewables, they include thermal generation ideas. And I'd like us to create some resource budget, whatever staff thinks is appropriate to explore, hire when appropriate, efficiently. We're smart about these things. I mean, as an aside, I've discovered that there's examples of vendors that have done work for us and done work for other entities where they have delivered far more for us for the dollar than they have for other entities, and I expect us to continue to manage those study dollars really well. So that's exploration of new generation, and I'm really referring to regional. Like in Whatcom County. Those ideas again, there's some of them that are thermal, like, there's potential for energy generation from biomass. There's some potentials for energy generation from other thermal means. There's, of course, we should always keep the door open for ideas around wind and solar too. So I'd like not to stipulate, you know what I mean? I really believe in an approach where, we let it's driven by what we want, not pre-selecting technologies ahead of time, and that with that kind of an approach in mind. And then finding some potential things to pursue. So study money for that kind of thing. The other thing that I think is important for me is to look at what we can do regarding the drought and subsequent difficult drought years. And this is a lot more tightly coupled to our existing customers. Again, this is also what I would call study money. And the purpose of that study money is to figure out solutions to deal with drought. One thing, I think it's already kind of in there now, after previous discussions, is the ability to deliver tanker water out of the Plant One rebuild. I think that's already in there. Yeah. in the package we purchased, it included floor mats and water delivery for tankers, so it's good, we got that in there, no upgrades necessary. But there's of course many other things that are drought mitigation type of solutions that I think we should be thinking about. And I'm gonna push it here. And the third thing I'd like us to look at is, what really is a sustainable long-term strategy for broadband development for the county? Everything we've done has been kind of in response to the federal money. And I do believe we've done our best, and I just want to be clear. I am not happy, but that doesn't mean I'm putting blame on any of us. I'm just unhappy. And that's my problem, not anybody else's problem. But I do want to figure out how to way to serve this community, because I repeat again, the number one thing that happens when I knock doors, and I've knocked a lot of doors in this community as much as anybody, is broadband. And so I'm not gonna let any of you off. I'm not that you guys want to forget that, but I'm not gonna let anybody that I know forget that. And I want to figure out a sustainable long-term pathway to contribute to this community on improving broadband infrastructure. And so these are, we don't have to do everything. And we obviously, this money we set aside, whatever we decide to as a commission set aside, is money that increases our overhead. I totally recognize that. So part of it is ideally if it's matching to state, and there are opportunities for funding these kinds of studies. But it shouldn't be, it should be made clear that it does increase our overhead, and ultimately if we it will have a rate impact, particularly if we do too much of this. So I recognize that we have to be very efficient in using this kind of money, and also very responsible using this kind of money, demonstrating that it is truly public benefit rather than doodling money,
That's a lot. I have a couple of comments and follow-up, so I would be hesitant to want to apply more money to a generation projects, considering we're already knees deep in geothermal, right? We are exploring that, and it is still costing money, and we're not there yet. And broadband, to me, it seems like we have maybe a good path forward with your help with partnering with Lummi, for now, right? To maybe that's doing some sort of study would be putting the cart before the horse, because maybe we have a solution. I mean, I would love to explore drought. I think most of us know the solution to the drought is closely tied to the flooding. And we should be looking at storage options. But people are hesitant to put their foot forward on that, right? Like county's kind of been hesitant, and everybody's, and I would love to explore what sort of storage solutions are available. Because, the floods are killing us, the droughts are killing us. They're closely tied.
Yeah, I mean, of the three things, the thing that's both urgent and important, because we are in a drought year, is the drought item. So I think that of the priorities is number one. What we're planning to do with, we're exploring to do, shouldn't say planning, what we're exploring to do with this interlocal agreement is potentially that long-term partnership, right? It could be that solution. So I recognize, thanks for bringing that up. And then thirdly, on power supply. Here's the thing. If things go perfectly. And we can see that they're not going perfectly.
Mm.
We're 20 years out. Right, here's another thing I remember from yesterday's resource adequacy was. It's now 9 gigawatts in 4 years. Of power supply shortfall. Granted, it's more southern Washington and, or I shouldn't call. We can call Seattle southern Washington.
Sure, they're south,
Yeah, they're southerners.
all down south.
We're up here in the north. So my point is, no matter what, we have a crisis in power supply and we're working on a pathway that addresses it in the long term. But we don't have, and there are solutions
Are
and
there?
partnerships that I'm not gonna say I have them. We've got smart people working for this organization. And I'm just giving, by doing this, I'm not saying and that's not asking for input for exactly what we do.
Mhm.
And, I guess it'd be great if we'd had something exact, but we don't, I don't have that. Rather that, what I'm saying is let's create a little of a bin that we might not use this year. And obviously it'll have to come, if we can, even though it'll be probably small dollars, I'd like that to come back to the commission for approval, obviously, for these studies, and so that we can prove that we're being very prudent in this kind of use of funds on this kind of a study thing that's not all operational, mission critical type stuff. So I would want that to come back to the commission. I'm just trying to create a bin and for the ability to provide that resourcing when it's needed. And I'm not
Right.
defining a particular project at this particular time, is what I'm trying to get at.
Right, that would come later. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of having some money set aside for exploratory studies in case we decide to do them later, with some basic parameters. We basically did that last year, like in this year's budget, it was $75,000 for study that we haven't commissioned.
Right.
That's not unreasonable. Yeah, and then of course, we'll all have to really, drill in and be on the same page about, justifying spending that money. But if we know, we only got a certain amount set in every year's budget that we could spend, we want to be selective with it and not just like spend it because we have to spend it, basically, right? Like it's okay to save it and let it roll over for the next year rather than just
Right.
find a way to spend it. If, with that understanding, or is that okay if it's budgeted?
It doesn't roll over.
Roll over, but
Yeah.
it could be
I just want to keep it as.
I guess it gets returned, there's always a difference between budgeted and actuals.
And
right?
as far as the amount, I'd like staff to come back with a recommendation what that amount is. Whether it is that 75 that we had last year, or is it more? Or, do a little bit of thinking about, of what you think, might be good to set aside.
You'll have to take a look at it. I mean, you got power supply options, drought, and then this, and broadband. So each one of those, we're gonna have to look at, find
Yeah.
out what the appropriate level of funding is going to be for each of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty broad range of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for staff to use their common sense about this and thinking about, what you see and what you think is realistic. With that high level input.
We'll take a look at it.
I'd be interested also in putting aside some study money, but thinking less exploratory and more inward into planning future capital improvements on increasing innovations to increase the resiliency, reliability, and efficiency of our existing system, or water system particularly. Recognizing, there's so much on the line. Like it's our core responsibility to keep our water system running every single day. And there's always probably more we can do to improve that. And without getting into specifics there, yeah, I think that there's probably some things where, you know, we might wanna, it might be a place where we need to contract out to come up with some capital improvements and such, like where we can, you know, largely do those. For the most part, we do those in staff, you know, we got our team doing that, thinking of things, but, where, you know, so there might be a need for consultants at some point, right? And, so we can, you know, money could be spent on that if not exploratory.
Right now, we're in the early stages of doing a hydraulic study of the whole system.
Mhm.
We're working on that right now. I mean, it's very early, but I think we're probably, I'd say in a year from now, we'll have probably some results on that study.
And potential projects.
We're doing, you know, it's a study where they're gonna go out in the field and they're gonna, and we haven't like done an RFP for this or anything quite yet, but they'll go out in the field and they'll take flow rates in different locations and different stuff like that, where we're gonna build a study for you know, towards that exact kind of a goal.
Okay,
And then another smaller thing that we're doing, I mean, it's not smaller, it's spending some dollars for it, but we're doing some new valve installation on parts of our line, and we're gonna take that RCCC pipe out and do some testing on it. I mean, it's obviously 50 and 60 years old, so hopefully the results are positive, but we're gonna take some sections of line out of our existing line and do tests on it to just kind of get some more baseline to, you know, on some of to that point of kind of the resiliency of our system.
that's great to hear. And, you know, I know, understand, you know, staff, you got your inputs into the budget process such that, you know, your forecast on what we'll need, we'll go, yeah, we'll see that in our draft budget, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was just noting that I think it's always good to, yeah, I don't know, like have something there, and that's where I'm, you know, where, you know, it could be the kind of thing where, you know, we allocated a little bit over here for exploratory, didn't need it, but turned out we needed more than we had anticipated for this other project. Once we, we got our proposals back and the bids and all that, you know, things can get moved around. Any other things?
Yeah.
I have,
There's a-
my turn. What kind of flexibility do we have in the budget? I mean, we're talking about spending money. What kind of, I know, you know, the state has issues with their budget and the county's facing austerity measures. I talked to people, they were making them turn off lights in their offices. I mean, we're talking austerity measure. What sort of flexibility do we have when we're talking about spending money for this?
You know, that's kind of up to you. We are in a little different position than the other governments. Basically, we figure out what our costs are going to be and set rates accordingly. And we can do that per RCWs and all that. We don't have to go to any regulatory commission, but that's putting you guys on the line, you to face the customers and say, hey, we're doing a 20% increase, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of the payoff, is we have a lot of flexibility, but politically, I guess it's kind of a question, and that's more your realm than my realm. So,
right, or even kindly, right? We don't want to have to charge people 20% increase in their rates to fund certain, you know.
right. And we, you know, just keep in mind, we already have some significant rates budgeted due to this plant
Right.
one increase,
Right.
or plant one
Yeah.
rebuild.
I know.
Talking about tens of millions in this.
I think
Yeah.
what our customers are gonna be looking for is predictability in
Right.
rates, right? And it's understood that you know, the CPI goes up, goods and services year over year, the cost goes up relative to a lot of things. So I don't think the customers expect that the rates are gonna be flat. I think they want predictability, if I was talking to them. And one of the things we need to be working on as a staff, and maybe this gets to what you're talking about, is we need an asset replacement plan that identifies throughout all of our water system and electric utility. What are think of it as a heat map, right? Of hey, here's new stuff, right? Here's medium age stuff, and here's really old stuff, right? But every asset has to be replaced eventually, or go through an overhaul or maintained in some way. And so you create this 15 to 30-year plan, right? It's rough, right, in the out years, but in the next 5 years, there's a lot of fidelity to that. And we should have very good rate stability for our customers in the 0 to 5 year outlay. And that rate may be incrementally just kind of constantly going up in a line, but we should know what that looks like. And so we should be endeavoring to get to that point and incorporated within that rate that we establish over the next 5 years are these things we're talking about, right? That we provision a certain amount of dollars for different purposes. They're baked in, but on top of all that are all these other costs that contribute to rate. What you don't want is the rate swing. Hey, this year we're going up 5%, next year you're going up 1%, following year you're going up 20%. They can't predict that. And if you're sitting on the other end of their business, right? They're not in a position they're making their budgets too, right? Just like we are. And we need to give them that stability.
Variability, yeah.
Right. So one of the ways we should be contributing to get to that stability is an asset replacement plan. So we'll be working on that as a staff.
Considerably less sexy than a feasibility study, though.
But yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
I said it's not as sexy as a feasibility study.
No,
Yeah, and makes sense. I mean, we are, for the last maybe 3 years, we've been super visionary in the things that we are trying to accomplish, and not neglecting the nuts and bolts, of course, but not nearly as.
so I went back and looked at the strategic plan again, and something stood out for me. A lot of things are industries, but we are addressing. There's something that was an item which we should, now as a commission, maybe with a new GM, either put to bed or figure out a way to get on it, which is in the strategic plan. And this is this whole subject around CCA.
Yeah,
We haven't done, consumer choice aggregator policy.
but it requires a legislative change, right?
Right, but we need to,
Advocate for them.
we need, and I don't know if that has budget implications or
Right.
not, it might. And again, maybe a fourth ornament to hang on this tree of studies. Is there anything we wanna investigate, and does that require money related to policy advocacy for consumer choice aggregation?
Yeah.
And then the one thing that I've been listening, I have been listening, but I did go off into my own little world for a minute. Apologize for that if I was Grandview. And when you were saying asset replacement study.
Plan. It's a plan we'll put together. It's not a study.
Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
plan, we'll put it
Asset
into there.
replacement plan. I don't think you actually did have an inflection, but when I listened to it, I heard Grandview in the background, and it modulated your voice in my head. The voices in my head. I heard Grandview, and I don't think there's any budget related thing that but I want to bring it up in case, unless you guys think, you guys meaning staff as a whole, think that there's something that we can do that's proactive, thoughtful, creative, magical, perhaps, that improves the Grandview situation. And I guess it's just passing the ball back to you. If that, in your asset plan, are there solutions for that? My latest, fantasy. On Grandview is to attract a, and I've had conversations with people at the port and other economic development firms in Whatcom County about attracting a sportsplex to Grandview. Not from this, I was gonna say something, and I'm glad my filters are working. I was, gonna say not from the current owner of the Grandview Business Park, but maybe an adjacent piece of property that we would be well situated to serve. That would be, or even the current owner, but basically finding, somewhere out there a good piece of land to build a sportsplex, because there are many community members who want to improve our facilities way beyond what, the Arnie Hanna, facility is to support sporting activities of all kinds, everything from hockey to soccer.
Sorry, you lost me. How does it,
As a customer.
but it wouldn't be, it'd be completely outside of our lines. Like, I mean, it's so far out of where we serve.
We're basically adjacent to Grandview so that we could use it would be, so when, to pay for infrastructure, you need customers. So more customers is more better.
But then it would be, so like as an extension of our Grandview
Yes, system.
water system.
And then it would justify properly bringing Grandview really up to snuff as part of the whole undertaking.
I thought we were just moving toward handing it to Ferndale. And
And I think that is the best option.
They don't,
It's not free.
they don't want it, but,
I mean,
And part of the reason they don't want it is because it's quite likely that attracting the right kind of development opportunity in that area would make them want it. They don't want it for the same reason we don't want it. Cause there's not enough load to support the infrastructure in a proper manner. So the solution then is load. And so, I don't think this has any relevance to the budget, so I'm just gonna quit here, but, sorry for that side.
yeah, that's something to think about.
I do want a swimming pool closer to home though.
Yeah, so that's the main reason, it's for you.
Yeah.
And then what about the pig? Where's the pig gonna swim?
Yeah, where's the pig gonna?
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't have
I-
anything.
I did have one follow-up going back quite a bit to Commissioner Deshmani. We do have, and I'm not 100% you're aware of this, I thought, but we do have a small system or tap at Plant 1 that people with tanker trucks do come and get water from. That's kind of set up. So with the Plant 1 rebuild, I understand is we're going to improve upon that. But I also wanted to let you know the people that are really pulling from that are construction companies. They're not farmers. I mean, it's non-potable water, but it's the construction companies that are really interested in that water.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted it, they could get it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that ability right now.
I just wanna like double down on what I said before, like if what you wanna go for right now is setting aside money for some sort of feasibility study, I would love for that to be water,
Yeah,
handling drought, handling flooding, and which also
I agree.
would require a legislative fix to water law, so.
Some things would, some things may
Yeah,
not.
some things definitely would though, and
Most
it's,
things, yeah.
and it's the unfortunate hiccup in water conservation. In Washington state, right, is current water law, so like not just setting aside a money for a study, but also. Like having a legislative priority to fix this thing.
And what Annette is doing is putting together a budget. This
Yes.
isn't the actual expenditure, obviously.
Right.
I think I made clear that I would want this item to always come back to the commission. for expenditures, so that we would be approving the expenditure.
But you want you want money set aside for a study.
Studies, yeah, to be determined, to TBD studies, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also, I agree with Jamie that if there, I'd be most inclined to approve something that was focused on water. It's not totally clear to me what we might study that's not already being studied or would be by other bodies, around, droughts and floods and. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on this, so it's like if we're gonna come from a neighborhood
Well,
unique to Whatcom
It's
PUD.
unique to Whatcom County, for sure,
Whatcom Kent, but to Whatcom PUD.
yeah, but there's no, we absolutely are, I mean, remember, like, as it relates to drought, like, there's. There's not a lot of people working on the water resource problem. Let's just be really clear. So, there are others, there's, staff at the county, but it's not like. It's hard to know if the effort, anything we'd be talking about would be duplicative. I can't imagine we'd be proposing something that would be duplicative. So.
Right, no, I'm sure that there could be, yeah, no, I guess that'd be something to discuss at a later date, so, yeah, again, I think it would be reasonable to set aside a, not a huge amount, but something there as a placeholder, because, yes, I mean, it could be there, you listed off all these options because there's a number of these things in our strategic plan
Mhm.
that are, a little bit open-ended, or, and long-term, and, again, I'm not totally sure if it needs to be next year's budget, or maybe it's a future year, but yeah, I don't think it's a.
Rebecca is dying to say something.
I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're running behind schedule, but I just want to remind the commission that the Rival One Watershed Management Projects has done studies and are continuing to do studies on these exact issues. There are two potential sites up in the South Fork for storage for I mean, these are all ongoing, and the Wire One group is going to continue to do that, and they're very engaged, and that includes the two tribes, obviously, cities, the county, the PUD. So just keep that in mind, that they are constantly looking for opportunities to help with all these water resource issues, and a little further up the river, which is great.
Are they ever looking, Rebecca, for matching funding from the entities?
Well, it depends on who's putting the project together. The tribes, there's a whole process I'm working on right now, what's called the combined review team, that is put out to primarily the tribes, the county, anybody that's doing water resource projects. It's an annual funding source in the Puget Sound Partnership and some other funding. We're going through the review right now of the 5 projects that have been presented. Over $4 million is being requested from the different projects. They all won't get funded, but that's the kind of thing beyond just what the public utility district might think about more on their own. But just keep that in mind, that there are a lot of water resource planning going on. It just takes a long time and it takes a lot of money. And that's why they don't happen faster. And staff time. So that's all I have to
Right,
say.
and that's important that, Rebecca, I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time, and our others on our staff spend collectively a lot of time in supporting. It's not like we're not supporting these things at present, right now. So I recognize that, so.
Yeah.
I also want to just put a quick plug into our unique perspective, maybe, is often storage can create supply for electric.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that would be, Wyra One would be maybe as interested in that, but we would be.
Yeah.
Right.
And because of the climate issues, the people are becoming more and more interested in storage projects. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, that actually, I think that's actually the crossover between energy and water storage would be exactly the thing that we might study that others
Right.
wouldn't. So yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think we got, that's some feedback for you. Was there anything else we wanted to bring up on budgeting?
Nope.
Tony, any thoughts, anything, any wish lists? Related, as far as relates to strategic. planning.
Do you have an earring budget as well?
The resilience does, that you mentioned, that it falls right in line with my thoughts about asset replacement planning, right? Cause that's what it's for, right?
Mhm.
We have aging
Right,
pipes, we have
ultimately.
aging equipment, valves, anything. We have this habit of calling something new 5 years after we purchase it, cars, right, in our personal lives, plant equipment here. And it's not new, right? It's 5 years old. We have to start planning to replace it, right? And so that gets into resilience and redundancy, right? So as soon as we activate plant one, we should be folding all that into our asset replacement plan. Yeah. But I don't have any input right now for it.
I guess it doesn't seem like you don't anticipate something we would need to specifically budget for. It's all just goes into.
Well, my past experience doing this type of an exercise, going from a limited replacement plan or asset information to a 30-year plan, right? Well, first I'll tell you, it took me 18 months to build that out at the University of Oregon when I worked there. And took a long time to put this mature plan in place. But we immediately found during that we had, in this case would be like we know we have water pipes that are well past their service life, right? So those are immediate needs. And you're just operating on borrowed time. And so those will influence this year's budget input as we try to get on top of some of that. As well as the out years. So we'll see what that looks like. I'm hoping the study money that you have been talking about for the last half hour, maybe we can offset some of that in other cost areas, right? Reduce some costs to produce that without impacting rates. So we'll have to take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, so no more snacks at meetings and.
Well, no, I mean, that brings up a good point that when we were talking about broadband, and then we're gonna wrap it up, cause I got that 30-minute remark. Is that broadband, unless we have grant funding, like, that's a really hard sell to raise rates so that our current customers pay for our broadband exploration, and I'll just put it at that.
Thank you for your support.
Well,
Always.
it's
And I want broadband.
let's move on. We have to move on. So I'm gonna say thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
Action item 1 is to approve policy 1201 using credit cards and processing credit card transactions. And any staff comments on this?
That's in our book. Did we not want that?
Wait, what?
And it was an Annette item as well.
Oh. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We decided to table that for now. So I think we're on to the resolution 900.
Gotcha. Great.
Oh, okay.
So we've tabled that item, basically,
We're-
for future.
Yep.
meeting. Yeah, okay,
We're gonna table that.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need any motions on
no.
amending or on taking no action or anything like that. Okay.
My apologies. I made the adjustment to the agenda and forgotten that Joseph had already printed those before.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, it was already updated. It's just the older agenda.
What was
Gotcha.
posted does not include it, so I apologize.
It's all good. Okay, no worries then. Well, resolution 900 authorizing the cancellation or reissuance of warrant number 01272-821 to Archibald Ishmani. Motion to approve. Stephanie, did you have comments on this?
You read it all, listen.
Would you like an explanation, colleague?
I don't think. we
I
need to-
don't really care. It's
yeah,
just a
it-
reissuance, so I'll move to approve resolution number 900. authorizing the cancellation and reissuance
Explanation.
of warrant number 01272821 to Tool Dish Money.
I'll second, and if you feel the need to comment, you may.
I do, I had a
Oh,
story.
let's give- oh my gosh.
We were all ready to approve it, though, don't blow it. Like, you might, it's a little bit of a risk or
We
take.
were
Yeah, I
almost
don't think
there.
it was, I just think. So I got the check and I went to go into town to write, but it was soaking wet. So by the time I got to the bank, it was mangled,
That happens.
so.
I
And the
thought
bank
maybe
wouldn't
your
accept
goat
it.
ate it or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, then I tried to dry it out and went back to the bank, they wouldn't accept it, so I went to the county and they said, well. I got severely reprimanded by county staff and finance, but.
Fair enough, wet check.
Does your bank not do mobile deposit?
No, but the numbers, you couldn't read the numbers, the whole numbers anymore, so the mobile deposit couldn't work. I guess I could have done a mobile deposit at home instead of. Yes, thank you for that, and I accept the admonishment.
All in favor?
Aye.
I do wanna comment next time, if you could just contact me, so that the county doesn't have to deal with it, and then I can just do all, cause they just emailed me and then I did the paperwork.
Okay,
So if you just let me know, then I can do paperwork, and we don't have to involve them.
okay.
So now you get admonishment from everyone.
Now I got admonishment from everyone.
Okay, well, I think we're ready to move on to. Resolution 901, honoring General Manager Chris Heimgartner.
What if we're not ready?
Oh, are we not ready?
No.
Well, would anyone like to, ooh,
Yeah, you're the president, you should, yeah.
should we perhaps, someone like to volunteer to read this out
Stand
loud?
up.
Or Chris, if you'd actually, yeah, why don't we start, come up here.
There he is, there's our guy.
There's our guy.
Chris,
There's our guy.
well, this is for you, yeah,
Thank you, Commissioner.
yeah, I don't know, we didn't really plan this out very well.
You wanna
did we?
read it?
I'll do it.
Paragraph, but I guess.
Easy on who's, let me
Yeah.
add it. Okay. Resolution by the Board of Commissioners of Public Utility District Number 1 of Whatcom County, wrong thing, just kidding. I'm canceling a warrant. Wow. Moving on.
I don't know.
Yeah. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Public Utility District Number 1 of Whatcom County, honoring General Manager Chris Heimgartner. Whereas Chris Heimgartner served as General Manager for Public Utility District Number 1 of Whatcom County from February 1st, 2022 to June 26, 2026. And whereas Chris Heimgartner has provided sound leadership and a vision for public utilities in Whatcom County. And whereas Chris Heimgartner has been a public servant to our community and others with more than 45 years in the utility industry, therefore be it resolved that the commission expresses its deepest gratitude for his dedicated career and outstanding community impact, offering this tribute to honor his retirement in his beloved poetic haiku, years of wise service, guiding our community, joy in your new rest. Adopted by the Commission of Public Utility District Number 1 of Whatcom County at its regular meeting held on the 23rd day of June 2026.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
If if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to.
Take a bow.
Well, it's been a great 4.5 years, first of all. Thank you for picking me. Thank you for allowing me to be in the process to pick my successor, and you guys did great. So this is gonna be great. When I look back, there are so many people and institutions that help support us that are not in this room. There's one in particular, Dave Olson, does not get the credit that he deserves. He's out there in the community all the time, working parallel with us and supports what we do. He also gave me a few kind words, totally unexpected, about a week ago, and Dave, thank you, really appreciate it. The importance of having a good community around an organization can't be overstated. When you look at what makes us good, it's the fact that we have to try really hard to satisfy people who are almost unsatisfiable. That demand from quality customers is what causes excellence in an organization. You have to rise to meet that demand. And we get that from our community. Todd, you're another example. There's Robin, who just left, is another example, and many, many others. So, never lose sight of that. And then the last thing I want to say is thank you to staff. It's been amazing working with them. And I wish I'd come here earlier so I'd gotten to know you better and longer. It is what it is. I'm handing you off to, I think, a good leader. And Tony, you can expect great support from these folks. They are truly amazing. So with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Chris was the only general manager that I served under. I know that you had a different experience, but I'm really grateful for your leadership over the years, and the phone calls and the talking off of ledges and all of this stuff.
Both ways.
Yeah.
We talked each other off ledges.
Yes.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, same for me. In my short time here, Chris, I mean, you've been a mentor and a teacher, and just so welcoming from day one, coming to the utility where, because I don't get to talk to my fellow commissioners outside of meetings, and I've just really appreciated, and your term of service here that predates me as well. And you were the right man for the job. I think we're all very blessed to have had you here, and I'm really happy for you though, to be able to just go off and just, enjoy life. And yeah, it's, but we do hope to be able, you'll stick around and be, offer your, 3 cents, your wisdom, and as we proceed. I'll always be welcome, and you're always welcome here anytime in Whatcom PUD.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I feel smarter because of you.
Well, thank you, it's all. You as well.
Who wrote that game?
I don't know.
Yeah, props to Lisa on that one. That's a nice touch.
Lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, it's kind of an inside joke. At our talking heads meeting, which is kind of our quasi staff meeting every other week, when it got into a lull, I would recite poetry. And so that was the thing everybody always held over my head. It was, we'll have a meeting, but no poetry.
I love that.
Well, that encourages it to be prompt then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Tony, there's something to learn from. Maybe you can.
First change, no
Yeah.
poetry.
No poetry. Maybe freestyle rapping. Tony.
Wow. Did we have a motion in a second? I can't remember.
No, we did not, no. I make a motion to approve resolution 901 honoring general manager Chris Heimgartner.
Now, second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. And, or resolution approved, and we are, suppose now, time for commissioner reports,
Okay.
starting with James.
I don't have anything fancy to report. I imagine that I will be helping with the float in the next week. And that Lisa could use probably any other help that she can get her hands on. I know it's been started, and I hope to see everybody in this room on the 4th of July. Except for Chris, you get a hall pass. And yeah. And just one other thing that I wanted to flag. So NC is doing a Fish and Farms tour that you and I had done one with the Conservation District.
If you haven't done it,
And
you should do it.
just to put out to you and to the public that these are really great tours. There's a lot of really awesome collaborative projects going on between agriculture and salmon recovery, Wyra One, all of those things. So it's definitely worth going on the tour. And it's in the beginning of July. Was it July 9th? I can't remember the date. Meeting at NC though, at their office. Okay, that's it for me. Short and sweet, let's get out.
Okay, I'm gonna be attending Energy Northwest meetings remotely on Wednesday and Thursday this week. And shoot, is there anything else I have to report? Oh yeah, maybe, because I've been giving these recurring updates on the county council and their comprehensive plan process. But yeah, they're introducing their comp plan, so any, you know, final changes are gonna be made today. I mean, there's a chance they might tweak something or other. There's been so many comments coming in from stakeholders in the last stages here, but yeah, they're gonna introduce it today, and then it'll be, I think, 3 weeks, so mid-July. Bit of a gap before they do the final public hearing vote resolution and all that. But as far as I can tell, what Chris had submitted and recommendations is still in there. I think but one thing that did come up was and it came up in my climate impact advisory committee meeting last week, that, you know, just if we need to define like non-carbon power, and that, you know, things like that may still get worked out. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's all just, it's just, it's gonna be what it is, and everyone's ready for it to be over, so.
And I appreciated the email from John Scanlon talking about the plan as well.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it kind of addressed the late changes, right, that people are uncomfortable with, and Lisa just gave me a signal that the NC tour is on the 3rd. Okay,
That was the same,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so, for me, I'm on Sunday through Tuesday, I'm going to a conference that I described, put on by the Center for Sustainable Infrastructure. And I'll provide a report back to the commission on that. Just as an FYI, on my own nickel, I'm attending some other things related to sustainable aviation fuels in the next couple of weeks. I have a background, and a couple of the port commissioners are fascinated by the subject and would like to get an opinion on what's realistic here in Whatcom County. And lastly, my last update
what?
is that I have a meeting with the executive director at the port this afternoon, so.
Great.
And it's just I think I'd like to start doing an annual or meeting with the port director. So.
That's a nice idea, yeah. Is that anything else today?
Nope.
Okay, well, we'll take public comment if anyone would like to address us.
Yeah,
All right, Mr. Lagaste.
so I hope the commission will give me a little bit of leeway here in allowing to address Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, I had a great experience when I was the interim commissioner here. And I came in with some knowledge, and I left with a lot more knowledge, but one of the things that as GM, you have a lot of power. Because you get to influence the commissioners who can't communicate with each other. And with great power comes great responsibility. That's a great line. Love that from Spider-Man. It goes all the way back to Winston Churchill and then even the Bible before that. And you exemplified that responsibility and how you handled that very well. And so I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, I had such a great experience here in such a short time. And you were very much the foundation of that and contributed greatly to that. So thank you again, and well wishes on everything. And I won't bore the commission with any of the other public comments that I have. I'll just save that for another time. So.
Thank you, Todd. Well said. And anyone else? We have anyone on Zoom? Dave, anyone? Okay. We'll close public comment. We have no executive session today, so well, you know, let's take a good of the order here. Anything else?
No, just let's hope we get good turnout for our, I think, yeah, we don't need to ask for good turnout, the Blaine Parade.
No, they'll be
Can have a
here.
huge turnout.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's America 250. It's gonna be a big one, yeah.
And by the way, are we all gonna get our, is there a face painter for the beauty crew to paint?
No, but there are, colorful sunglasses and headbands for you to wear. So
Okay, cool, all
I
right.
think you'll feel sufficiently dressed.
Decorated, okay, enough bling there, okay. That's good enough.
All right, so we'll all be there then, right? Great, all right, looking forward to the parade, and yeah, and thanks to, you know, Jamie and Lisa and all your work on making it happen, really awesome. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. And seeing no further business, I will move to adjourn at 10:51 AM.
See you guys
You all
on
for
the
being here.
floor.